Live and alert on the north side of the dirt. It is your man D-Real coming at you with another Be Real with D-Real, where edutainment is what I do. I'm dropping stuff. Scissors. It'll be okay. How are y'all doing today? I am still on my latchkey kid stuff, so I'm wanting to see some stuff discussed openly. Today, I want to talk about Norman Lear. Who's Norman Lear? We'll get to that in a second. But suffice to say, a lot of the shows that you know and love in the 70s and 80s, well, even farther back, the 50s and 60s, Norman Lear is responsible for them. I know what you're saying to yourself. How can Norman Lear be responsible for shows in the 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s? He just turned 100 last year. Yeah, he's born in 1922. Do the math. July 27th, 1922. Man about to be 101, God willing. But he brought us a lot of seminal, groundbreaking television shows. A lot of famous firsts. Not just on the television shows, but on the episodes themselves. He dealt with gay and trans stuff. He dealt with abortion. He dealt with race issues big time. But really deep question that we have to ask. He's born in Connecticut, New Haven, Connecticut, I think it was. New Haven, Connecticut in 1922. Think about it. Now, before I dive all off into this, I need y'all to do what you always do for me. Comment, like, subscribe, and share the Be Real with D-Real page so that when new material comes out, you get it. If you're digging what a brother's shoveling, put some dirt in my bucket. Comment, like, subscribe, and share. All this. Let's talk about Norman Lear. There he is. Good old Norman Lear. Okay. That guy is a television god. Like I said, he was born July 27th, 1922 in New Haven, Connecticut. Yeah. Now, he is responsible for a crap ton of shows. All in the Family, Maud, One Day at a Time, and then of course the plethora of black shows or shows with black actors and folks in it, such as Good Times, Jeffersons, Different Strokes, all that, man. But now let's do a little bit of backtracking because I'm about to get deep on it here. Now, back in 1972, Norman Lear was responsible for a show called Maud, which featured the now deceased actress B. Arthur, who went on to gain even more fame in a show called Golden Girls. Yeah, she was Dorothy. But there was a actress on that show by the name of Esther Roll. Esther Roll played Maud's maid, Florida Evans. What? Did you say Florida Evans? Yes, I said Florida Evans. Florida Evans, the other outspoken maid, housekeeper, whatever you want to call it, who went on to star in her own series. Good time, anytime you need a payment. Good time. Yep. Knocking hassles, knocking hustles, keeping your head above water, making a way when you can, temporarily. Anyway, um, this is a show about a struggling Black family who lives in Cabrini Green in Chicago. Anybody who know anything about Chicago and anything about Cabrini Green, know Cabrini Green was some rough ass projects. I think Cabrini Green is the projects that are the prototype for all other projects because Cabrini Green was rough. And this show takes place there. Hold that thought. Norman Lear is also responsible for another amazing, groundbreaking show known as All in the Family. All the way Glenn Miller played. Yeah. In the 70s, TV shows had theme songs. Anywho, Archie Bunker was coined America's favorite bigot. Nope, I shit you not. That was all over TV Guide back when they had a thing called TV Guide. TV Guide was a thing. It was a book that you bought at the store, and it had a schedule of all the programs that were going to come on that week. Isn't that novel? Yeah, that's how they used to do it back in the day. But anyway, also pictured in this image with bigot Archie Bunker is another famous bigot, George Jefferson, as his wife Wheezy would say. Started out on All in the Family. But anyways, off of the strength of a couple appearances by George and Louise Jefferson, the neighbors of the Bunkers. Yep, you guessed it. Hey, we're moving on up to the east side. Yep, to a deluxe apartment in the sky. Coincidentally, the woman who sang the theme to the Jeffersons played the neighbor, Willona, on Good Times, Jeanette Dubois. Anyways, another show. This is a show about a Black businessman moving up to the good life on the east side. I assume that got to be Park Avenue, moving up to the good side where he's got a deal. I'm going to use the word Honky quite frequently. And he too also had a sassy, outspoken maid who was played by Marla Gibbs, who's still kicking today. God bless you, Marla Gibbs. And went on, you know, that show covered a lot of topics. I think that was one. No, I take that back. It wasn't one of the first shows that I heard somebody drop an N-bomb. But anyways, he made this show popular. I think it ran for 10 years, I want to say. When I got out of high school, the Jeffersons was still on. So yeah, it ran at least until 85. I know for a fact. Also, there were not a lot of shows that, even though they weren't predominantly Black ensemble cast, they did have a role where there was a Black character who practically always stole the show. And that show was, yep, got another theme song. Now the world don't move to the beat of just one drum. What might be right for you may not be right for some. Different strokes. Yes. What you talking about, Willis? That show also supposedly comes from the mind. And I say supposedly, but you'll see what I'm getting at in a second. comes from the mind of Norman Lear. Last but certainly not least, it was said that Norman Lear had the idea to do a remake of a British television show. That has been done a lot. It's been done a lot more than you think. The Office, originally a British television show. All in the Family, originally a British television show. Three's Company, originally a British television show. And Norman Lear decided he wanted to get on board with that. We need to make a remake a British television show. One of his writers, Eric Monty, a black man, suggested that he make that show black and put a black actor in the lead role. Norman Lear didn't think that was such a good idea, but a year later, yeah, Sanford and Son. I mean, let's be honest. Who would be more adept at making such shows as Sanford and Son, Good Times, Jeffersons than Eric Monty, who is also the creator of the TV show What's Happening, which is based on the movie Cooley High, which Eric Monty also wrote. Yeah, I know it doesn't have a fancy theme song, but the theme song it does have is funky, and it was made by Quincy Jones. Who? Yeah, Quincy Jones did the theme song to Sanford and Son. Anyway, now, speaking of Good Times, real quick, just a little side note. If you watch Good Times, you know a lot of times the show ended with this image. Okay, this image right here is a painting from one Ernie Barnes. It is called The Sugar Shack. It was the cover of the 1976 album I Want You by Marvin Gaye. And I want you to want me to. Yeah, that one. Just like I want you. Yeah, I can't hold a candle to Marvin Gaye. Anyways, it was Ernie also lent some of his images to Good Times. He actually painted a picture of the Good Times cast. This picture recently, I think last year, sold for $15.3 million. Way to go, Ernie Barnes. That's what I'm talking about. But back to where we was supposed to be back to right here. Now, it has come to light recently that gentleman I mentioned earlier, Eric Monty, a black man who did writing chores, came up with a lot of creative ideas. At least this is what Eric Monty says. He came up with a lot of the ideas for the black shows that Norman Lear is iconic for. Case in point, an all-black family in Cabrini Green. Do you think a Jewish man from New Haven, Connecticut, in his wildest imaginings, could come up with that concept? And so the story goes, originally, Norman Lear wanted the Evans family to be run by a single mother. Yeah. Now, ironically, Esther Rolle, who plays the mother on Good Times, was the one who petitioned the hardest, petitioned with the most force for the black family to be a complete family. And John Amos, aka James Edmonds, was added to the cast. So, but strangely enough, in I think what was it, the second or third season, he ends up dying. So the powers that be got their way anyway. The Evans became a single parent home. Now, this is just what I'm saying. This entire concept came from the mind of Norman Lear. We believe that. Okay. Eric Monte also said he told Norman Lear in a meeting about Steptoe and Son, that's the original name of the show, that he should make the cast black and have Red Fox in the lead role. It is said that Norman Lear's response to that was, who? You telling me Norman Lear, who been around 100 years, don't know who Red Fox is? Come on now. Red Fox was a famous comedian long before Sanford and Son. But this man came up with the idea for Sanford and Son. Okay. All right. Let's do one more. As we all know, the Jeffersons are a spinoff from All in the Family. Now, while All in the Family clearly takes place in a somewhat mixed neighborhood in Queens, does such a thing exist? I don't know. I've never been to Queens, so I'm not going to speak on it. But they were neighbors. Facts remain. George Jefferson, Archie Bunker, two bigots were neighbors. Okay. So from that concept, Norman Lear said, I want the black guy to get rich. He's going to get rich, and he's going to become not just a bigot from Queens, he's going to become a rich bigot from Queens. That one, I could potentially see Norman Lear coming up with. I could totally, potentially see him coming up with that. But a lot of the dialogue, a lot of the writing, Eric Monte, he got some credit, but he didn't get credit for creating a lot of these characters. And Eric Monte posits that a lot of the black characters who were created in the 70s were his doing. Do we believe that? Do we believe that he was one of the people that was an integral part of the iconic characters and shows that we know today as the backbone of black television? We don't want to give him those stars. We don't want to give him those bars. We don't want to give him those flowers. Look here, I'm gonna just say this. It makes sense and it doesn't make sense. And like my man Theo over at I Ain't Saying, I'm Just Saying, I always like to say, two things can be true at the same time. That would be a much better way of looking at it rather than saying that 100-year-old man just screwed that poor black man out of the credits and laurels that he deserved for his part in helping to create iconic television shows, as well as give black actors a gang of work. It is what it is. I'm just the messenger. Don't come try and kill me. If you want to know, there are a lot of videos with interviews. If you want to, you can look up Eric Monte online. There are several videos where he tells his story or excerpts of him telling his story, and saying that Norman Lear never gave him the laurels he deserves for the work that he put in for those characters. That's the long and the short of it. Norman Lear, 100 years old, worth $200 million. Eric Monte, not 100 years old, and definitely not worth $200 million. What's fair? What ain't? What happened? What didn't? I don't know. I just present stuff. And I let y'all speculate and pontificate and ruminate on what it should or shouldn't be. That's it for me, y'all. But fret not, I will be coming at you with another one of them other ones. And until I do, y'all be good. Be good to each other.